Welcome everyone to QB Power Hour. Today is Thursday, May 25th, and this is a very special episode because we're going to talk about timesheets in QuickBooks and talk about Tsheets, one of our very special sponsors. And I'm sure whether you're a Tsheets user or not, you're going to walk out with something interesting because Tsheets and QuickBooks are having a really great year in terms of partnership. So we're going to talk about Tsheets and QuickBooks and then the app itself. The agenda for today, we'll spend a couple of minutes talking about what QB Power Hour is and the host, just in case this is your first time logging in with us. We'll talk about the CPE and ACE process, and let's talk about the learning objectives. So today we're going to learn some of the differences about Tsheets in QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. What I like to do for my part of the presentation, it's kind of compare and contrast them so we have an idea of what we step into if we're working with QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop when it comes to timesheets. Now, for the second learning objective, we're going to understand how using Tsheets, which is an integrated app for QuickBooks, can enhance the experience of timesheet and payroll workflow for QuickBooks users and saving small businesses hours of data entry and, of course, increasing accuracy on the time tracking. This is a webinar series that is usually twice a month, every other Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern. The next episode will actually be in 3 weeks, not 3 weeks, because we're going to be out that week. In 2 weeks, we're going to be on a conference. So on June 15th, make sure you log in for an ACE webinar. That's an advanced continuing education credit for advanced pro advisors. And we'll talk about customizing reports in QuickBooks Desktop and manipulating that data in Excel. So on June 15th, make sure you don't miss that, especially if you happen to be an advanced QuickBooks Pro advisor. Now, we talk about tips and tricks and advanced insights on different webinars. We try not to repeat topics, and 50% desktop, 50% online. From time to time, we'll have a special guest, such as a third party, practice management topics, small business accounting and industry related news. And for today in particular, we're going to have a third party app talking about it. About the host, Michel Long, the co-host of QB Power Hour. She's not with us today. She's in vacation somewhere in Europe, so I hope she's resting and having fun. She's the author of several QuickBooks books. She's the group administrator of the LinkedIn group called Successful QuickBooks Consultants, has over 160,000 members, tons of honors and recognitions in the accounting and QuickBooks industry. Myself, my name is Hector Garcia. I work and live in Miami, Florida. I have my own training room in Miami, and I teach QuickBooks. Me and my staff here, we train in QuickBooks, and I'm a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. So I do create a lot of training contents related to QuickBooks, but I am a regular, plain vanilla practitioner, and I do accounting, tax, QuickBooks work like everybody else. If you have any questions for me, my email is hector@garciacpa.com, or you can communicate with me via Twitter at QBK Accounting. Anyway, some of the upcoming events that we're also involved with is Scaling New Heights. In 2 weeks in Orlando, the biggest gathering of QuickBooks Pro advisors will happen every year. Hopefully it's not too late to register. If you're still kind of thinking about it, check it out, wooderevents.com. It's a great conference all about QuickBooks and being a QuickBooks Pro advisor. Now, if you go to quickbooksvcon.com, somewhere around mid-June, there will be a QuickBooks virtual conference. And I'm not sure if Michel's teaching there, but I'm going to be teaching one class on value pricing, maybe. We'll see. It's in the talks. Also, if you need to get certified with QuickBooks Online, basic or advanced, there's a nationwide tour. Whoops, somebody's saying that they weren't seeing my slides. Or here's my slides. Sorry about that. Okay, so there's a nationwide tour going through in the summer called, you go to qbtrainingevents.com, and there's QuickBooks Online Basic and QuickBooks Online Advanced certification classes. And lastly, in November 13 to 15, there will be the annual QuickBooks conference run by Intuit in San Jose, California, called QuickBooks Connect, and go ahead and check that out. Now, about the CPE process, You will earn CPE if you're logged into the webinar live. You're logged in for at least 50 minutes. You answer 3 out of the 4 polling questions that we will ask, and then you will get an email with an email version of a CPE certificate within 3 weeks. This episode is not approved for ACE, but the next one is. The one on June 15th is. Now, there's no slides available to the public because there really isn't that many important things in the slides anyway. Most of it is going to be in product demo. Now, our sponsors, Tsheets, #1 rated app in apps.com, helps you create, manage, and approve timesheets from any device. Check them out, tsheets.com. They're actually a guest speaker today. Aero Workflow, the only workflow management tool created by QuickBooks Pro Advisors for QuickBooks Pro Advisors, fully integrates QuickBooks Online, understands the needs of practice management to any accounting and QuickBooks practice. And HubDoc, our last sponsor, most popular document aggregator for QuickBooks Power users, very powerful document manager, and a great system to automate receipt and bill into your QuickBooks Online. Check them out at hubdoc.com. Thank you very much to our sponsors who help us keep these webinars free. You know, they carry some of the cost behind having these webinars available to the public. Anyway, let's dig right into the topics. We're gonna compare timesheet features inside QuickBooks Online versus QuickBooks Desktop. Now, I didn't want to compare feature by feature. What I wanted to highlight were the things that were not available on the other version. So if I am mentioning something to be a feature in QuickBooks Online, it is implied through this slide that QuickBooks Desktop doesn't have it, and vice versa. If I mention something about QuickBooks Desktop as being a feature, it's also implied that that one is not available in QuickBooks Online. Okay, so ready? Here we go. QuickBooks Online. If you have QuickBooks Online Plus, you can create unlimited timesheet users, something you cannot do in QuickBooks Desktop. Anyone that logs into QuickBooks Desktop, it's a named user, and you have to have a paid license for that user. Where in QuickBooks Online Plus, you can have unlimited timesheet users, people that can clock in and out through their phone or through logging into QuickBooks Online. Now, Intuit recently released a very basic timesheet tracking mechanism in the phone app. So you're able to clock in and out with the phone app, but it's going to be nothing like the way Tsheets works, and then we'll allow the Tsheets people to talk about that. Now, billing rate, this is what we plan to charge our clients for our billable time, is editable on the timesheets. So while you create a timesheet in QuickBooks Online, you can set exactly how much you plan to charge your client for that particular hour if you plan to invoice or make that hour billable, something you cannot do in QuickBooks Desktop. Now, you can track locations and classes in a timesheet, but unfortunately, it does not pass through to payroll. As of today, May 25th, 2017, QuickBooks Online does not do any payroll job costing or pass through class and location information onto the paycheck. So if you are going to put locations or classes in a timesheet, it is with the purpose of marking them billable, not with the purpose of including them as part of your payroll accounting. Now, you can track timesheets for vendors, but you cannot create a bill. In other words, I can select a vendor, not an employee, in QuickBooks Online to create a timesheet, only again with the purpose of marking that time billable and charging my clients for it, but I cannot create a bill from that vendor that derives from that timesheet. And something that's really cool, I kind of love this, is that in QuickBooks Online, you can export your timesheets into Excel once you have data in it. You can't import it, but you can export it. So I don't know if that's valuable or not to you, but it's something that QuickBooks Desktop doesn't have. Now, switching gears to QuickBooks Desktop. Now, QuickBooks Desktop will require a third-party app to capture time data with a phone. So although QuickBooks Online will give you that ability, QuickBooks Desktop will do it, but you have to have a third-party app, obviously, like Tsheets. You can track different payroll items within a single timesheet, something you cannot do in QuickBooks Online. So if you have particular bonuses or different rates that you pay your employee based on the type of work that they do. You can do that in QuickBooks Desktop, but you cannot do it in QuickBooks Online. Now, QuickBooks Desktop, you can create bills that are deriving from a vendor timesheet, which is really, really, really useful. Something that QuickBooks Online doesn't do, something I've been talking to Intuit folks saying that's crucial. We need to be able to create bills in QuickBooks Online from vendor timesheets. Now, something that's really, really great is QuickBooks Payroll inside QuickBooks Desktop requires a subscription. However, if you go to YouTube and you literally search manual payroll in QuickBooks, there's a video I created where I explain how to turn on payroll in QuickBooks without having that subscription, just with the purpose of using the job costing features. You're still not going to be able to pay electronically, calculate taxes, none of that stuff. But the manual payroll feature allows you to at least use the job costing elements, especially for when you use a third-party payroll system like Paychex or ADP. Now, QuickBooks Desktop also allows you to track workers' comp code within timesheets, which is really, really important because QuickBooks Online doesn't do any of that. So you can't calculate different workers' comp costs based on on what type of work the employee is doing, something that QuickBooks Desktop can do really well. And also with QuickBooks Desktop, you can import timesheets using an IIF format. And again, you can also go to YouTube and search for QuickBooks Desktop Timesheets IIF, and you're going to see a video I created explaining how you would import. Let's say, for example, you have a spreadsheet with time data and you want to convert it to IIF so you can import it into QuickBooks Desktop. I explained in that video. It's a very complex process, but it's there, and you don't have to pay anything. Whereas in QuickBooks Online, if you needed to import time data, you have to use a third-party app, no matter what. And then lastly, QuickBooks Desktop Premier Accountant Enterprise has something called a billing rate level that allows you to choose what rate do your customers pay for a particular hour of work based on which employee did the work. So in contrast, in QuickBooks Online, I can change the billable rate, add it manually on the timesheet. With QuickBooks Desktop, I cannot do that, but I can preset what the billing rate is for each of those clients. All right, so I wanted to kind of get out all these important technical things out of the way, and then I'm going to jump into the product right now to just kind of show you. So let me also launch QuickBooks Desktop as well, so we can compare the two. And let me start with QuickBooks Online. So I just want to kind of give you a deep dive of what the timesheet looks like in QuickBooks Online, all the features that it has, and all the things that work and don't work with it. So I'm going to click on the Quick Create button on the top right of the screen, and then I'm going to click on Weekly Timesheet. So once I select Weekly Timesheet, on the top left of the screen, I select which of the employees or vendors. It does allow you to use vendors here. I'm going to run a timesheet for, so I select my employee, and then I select the time frame, whatever time frame I want to do a timesheet for. Now, depending on the time frame, for example, I went back to last week, there was already data in there, okay? Or if I do this week, notice that there's no data in there, and I'll kind of walk you through every one of these boxes. So first of all, on the right of the screen, you got a settings button that allows you to choose what days you want to show. So if you never work a Saturday or Sunday, we can disable those two, make the box a little bit smaller, a little bit more comfortable to work with. There's a lot of fields here, so you want to work with as least fields as possible. Here is the export button. So for example, I'm going to go to last week, and then I'm going to pull up a timesheet that I have here. I'm going to click on the export button so you see what it looks like. And basically, whatever your timesheet looks like in within the QuickBooks Online app, once you click on export, you get a really nice timesheet. Now, why does the export even exist? Oh, because some people want to maybe import it into some other another payroll system, or maybe they want to print this out, get it manually approved. Maybe they want to make modifications to it. Whatever happens to be, that's actually kind of the neat thing about the weekly timesheet. And it does export the customer job, the service item, all that stuff. Something, again, you cannot do this with QuickBooks Desktop. There's no export feature. Of course, you can print by clicking on the print button, or you can copy last timesheet. So for example, notice how I got some data on this timesheet, if I go to the next week, let's say, for example, I have an identical week in terms of time for this employee, I can click on copy last timesheet and it will bring all the information from the previous timesheet. So it's basically a duplication tool. Now, on the top left of the screen, these are divided by events. So I got the number sign here letting me know I got event 1, event 2, event 3. Each event is designed for you to select the customer job if you're doing billable time, really important. The service item, which is what item is going to show up on the invoice if you do invoice, the invoice that client for that time. The class, if you have classes turned on, in this case, locations actually, and then we have classes. So we have classes, locations, service item, notes that can pass through the invoice. We can mark it billable or not. And by the way, billable just means that I have the intention to create an invoice for it. The dollar amount you put here, it's how much it would show up in the invoice if I actually bill for that time. And then I put the hours for each one. Now, you can put the hours in a decimal format. So for example, 9 hours, 9.25, once you hit tab, it will recalculate the 9 hours and 15 minutes. So you can work with hours and minutes, or you can work with decimals, whatever is easiest for you. Now, something you cannot do in QuickBooks is select which of the customers get charged the overtime and that sort of thing. That's something you can only do in QuickBooks Desktop. So that's it. That's the timesheet in a nutshell. There's really not much to talk about here. So at this point, I can hit save and close, whatever. But then the most important thing is, if I'm going to run payroll, I'm going to go to employees, and then I'm going to run the payroll, and whenever I create the paycheck, those hours are going to push through, and it's great for running payroll, timesheets and payroll. So the really important thing about it is, the big question is, why should I use timesheets inside QuickBooks Online? Well, the answer is going to have a couple of moving parts. One is, I run timesheets in QuickBooks Online because I want to run payroll. Okay, that's one of the things. Let's say you don't run payroll in QuickBooks. You don't run payroll in QuickBooks. You use some other system, or you don't even have employees. Then the reason why we want to run timesheets in QuickBooks Online is to mark in billable and then create an invoice for it. For example, I'm going to go ahead and create an invoice for one of my clients here that I selected. So I'll pick whatever client I want to invoice. And you're going to see right here on the right-hand side, you're going to see any timesheet entries that were in a timesheet that were marked billable are going to be showing here. And they're also going to be multiplied times whatever rate we told it in the billable time section. So if I select any of these, click on add, then you're going to see inside the invoice the service date, which is the particular day in which we track the time, the service item that we picked in that timesheet, the quantity, the amount, the total, whether or not it's taxable, and the class. Notice that the location doesn't show up here because we don't do location on a line level. Location only comes up as the overall invoice level. So if I got multiple time entries with different locations and I include them in the same invoice, you're gonna have to pick which location you're gonna choose for that. Okay, and you can't assign overtime hours to a particular employee, so they won't be tracked as a separate item. But in a payroll, in a paycheck itself, it will track the overtime. It just won't track overtime to be more expensive than others for the purpose of billing or for the purpose of costing. So that's, I see some questions here around overtime, so I wanted to clarify that. Now I'm going to go ahead and close that and save it or whatever, and then show you the other QuickBooks Online timesheet feature, which is the single time activity. Now the single time activity equals to every single line item inside that timesheet. Okay. In other words, for example, I'm going to look at the weekly timesheet itself. Okay. So each of these components, like this 7 hours, this 9 hours, this 10 hours, each of these is actually an individual time entry. Okay. So I'm going to show you what that looks like again. So you don't have to use a weekly timesheet. You can do this event by event, one by one, by simply just selecting the date, again, the location, the class, the customer, the service item, whether or not it's billable, the amount, and the number of hours. Now, there's a little checkbox here that says start end. You can actually do this and just select the start and the end time. You can manually also put the start and the end time if you want to. What QuickBooks Online doesn't have is a timer. So if you're using QuickBooks Online and you need a timer, then you need to use a third-party app like Tsheets, and we'll discuss Tsheets on the second half of the webinar. And again, if the hours are not billable and you're not running QuickBooks Payroll, you can use the timesheets, but they really won't be of any particular help. Now, let me open up QuickBooks Desktop now so I can talk about some of the contrast. And I'm going to read some of these questions here. I think I answered all of them. Let me see. Someone says, I have clients who input their time in ADP or paychecks, and they do it in QuickBooks. If I run manual payroll in QuickBooks, they can do job costs. Yeah, let me mention that real quick, because if you have any QuickBooks Desktop users and you've never seen this video before, I mean, there couldn't be a better context in which I'm going to show this. So I'm going to put here QuickBooks import timesheets, something like that. So I'm going to show you. So this video called Import Time Data into Timesheets, I explained if I have a timesheet in Excel, how would I convert it to an IIF file so I can bring it into QuickBooks Desktop, okay? So that's what that video is for. And the other video is called QuickBooks Manual Payroll, which I also recommend you check out. It's also under me, which I actually explain the process of overriding the requirement of having a subscription to turn on payroll, but it is all the usual payroll things like filing forms, paying electronic, correct calculation, that all goes out the window. But this is a great way of using QuickBooks timesheets, which you can even use Tsheets timesheets, pass them over to QuickBooks and create these paychecks that are going to be clear. They're all going to be going through clearing accounts, and they're really good for job costing. So don't try to understand it. If you don't, just watch the video, and that should give you some context. Let me see. Somebody says, do you have a track classic start-stop times with breaks in QuickBooks Online? The answer is no. If you need classic start-stop with breaks, you have to use a third-party app like Tsheets. Let's see. Does a single time activity have a screen that allows you to copy yesterday's time? So the answer is no. With the weekly timesheet, you can copy the last timesheet, but on the daily one, you cannot copy the previous day. Good question. I have a QuickBooks Desktop subscription. What is the best way to take the data out and import it into QBO? Tammy, I don't have an answer for that. That is such a deep question in so many ways. I wouldn't even have time to start with that. So I apologize. Probably feasible, but I can't think of a quick answer I can give you right now. Short answer I tell you is export the data in Excel and then use Transaction Pro Importer or some sort of third-party import app to do that. Also, what you could do, no, that's the only thing I can think of actually, or obviously switch to QuickBooks Online Payroll, which I'm not sure if that's even do that. Now, if your question is more about, hey, I have QuickBooks Payroll and Desktop and I want to start using QBO, you can actually work with the technical support team and they can migrate the data. But I'm assuming your question is more about, keep using QuickBooks Desktop Payroll separate and import every single paycheck. I'm not sure what your question meant. Provide clarification. That would be nice. Let's see. Will QuickBooks Online Accountant ever bring back books to tax feature? Well, that's completely beyond the content of this webinar. I don't know the answer, but also I have no clue. Okay. All right. So I'm in QuickBooks Desktop. I'm going to go to the employee menu. I'm going to click on enter time, and then I'm going to click on use weekly timesheet. Now, this is almost identical to QuickBooks Online in terms of features, right? You can select the employee, the vendor, whatever. You can select the customer job, the service item. The most stark difference is that in QuickBooks Desktop, I cannot select a payroll item, which is crucial if I'm paying my employees different rates based on the job that they're doing. In QuickBooks Desktop, I can select the workers' comp code. You cannot do that in QuickBooks Online. In QuickBooks Desktop, once I generate payroll, we'll talk about payroll briefly, I can job cost all the payroll, which I cannot do with QuickBooks Online. So that's a really important thing. Is QuickBooks Online really has the edge on having unlimited timesheet users and has the edge on being able to change the billable rate on the fly for that for each time entry. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's this thing called billing rate level list, which is it wasn't part of what I was planning to cover today, but I wanted to just show you briefly. If you actually create a billing rate level, you can assign a billing rate to each employee. That way, when you go invoice them, the value of that time is based on whichever employee you're using. So it's kind of a way to modify that. Now, in that context, I like to ask a quick polling question and CPE polling question. I like to know whether or not you do any sort of payroll processing or setup for your clients. By the way, before you answer, you don't necessarily have to process payroll itself. In terms of filing the taxes, I'm talking about maybe processing the paychecks or doing anything with the timesheets. I'd like to just kind of get an idea for where you stand. Whether you actually do the payroll or just the pre-payroll processing or both, or obviously neither. Let's see what other polling questions we have here. I think we got all the polling questions answered. All the questions answered. I'm gonna leave this polling question up for another 30 seconds or so because it's really important for our CPE. Let me see what else. What are the questions that we have? Quick question. Why would I use Tsheets to track time in my phone versus using the time tracking feature that comes with QuickBooks Online? Well, I think I'm going to allow the Tsheets person answer that, but the quick answer to that is time approval system. Time approval system, it's having somebody that says, yes, this is good to go for payroll before actually processing the payroll. Because if you have no one approving somebody's time, once you do the paychecks, you can overpay a bunch of people or underpay or not take their breaks. I mean, you can have compliance problem if you don't have someone taking a look at these timesheets and approving them before they're being processed in payroll. The other answer to that is why would you use a third-party app like Tsheets? Would be like for breadcrumbs, for getting the GPS to tell me the history of where my employee was, especially if my employee is out on the road, which is probably the reason why they will be clocking in and out through their phone. Although Tsheets has a nice kiosk feature, and I'm going to ask Dan, the Tsheets rep, to mention that as well. Okay, so it's been 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and close the polling question. I'll share the results. About 58% of you offer both, 31% don't do any payroll whatsoever, and then some are in the middle. Great, awesome. I think Dan is going to talk about that middle spot quite a bit. Okay, let me go ahead and hide that. Okay, perfect. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you, but before I switch it over to Tsheets, I want to show you one of the reasons why I love QuickBooks Desktop Timesheets is this. If I create for a vendor a timesheet and I job cost it or not, doesn't matter, but then select a particular line item, add some notes and class and the time. So if I use the timesheet feature for a vendor, I can then watch this. I'm going to hit save and close. I'm going to go to enter bill. I'm going to select my vendor. Okay, and then it says your vendor's got timesheet data. Would you like to turn this into a bill? Well, of course, yes. I select date range and hit OK. And then it will bring that straight into a bill. And that is particularly wonderful and amazing because a lot of vendors work off time. But not just that. If I process payroll with a third-party processor like ADP or Paychex, I can use Tsheets still to track time, and I set them up as vendors and bring them into QuickBooks and create the bills, and then I can just basically net them out to zero like for example, something like this. Okay, I can net them out to zero, and at the end of the day, I can job cost them simply by doing something like this. And I don't want to get too into the weeds in terms of what exactly a zero value bill or zero value check is. But the point is that if I have the timesheet data and I can turn it into a bill, I can do all sorts of interesting things. And then we should probably dedicate a webinar just to this, by the way. If you watch that one video I mentioned, then you will know exactly what I mean by using bills or paychecks to do job costing that don't necessarily move money around. Anyway, let me go ahead and close that out, and then I'm going to go back to my presentation, and then I'm going to tee it up to Tsheets now. So Dan from Tsheets is going to do a presentation. Let me first highlight what I think are like 8 to 10 things that when somebody asks me, hey, can you describe to me Tsheets in 1 minute, 2 minutes, what would you do? Would be this. Well, number one, works with both QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop or Enterprise. I put Enterprise there, but I really meant Desktop. It transfers timesheets from both employees and vendors that you can convert into bills. It has a new in-product feature with QuickBooks Online that integrates time approval within QuickBooks Online, so you don't have to get out of QuickBooks Online to approve timesheets, which is amazing. It does GPS tracking with breadcrumbs, which basically lets you know for all your mobile employees exactly where they were, how they moved around, and how much time they spent at each place. Very crucial for job costing and field employees. You can also do job and shift scheduling, which is really important for the scheduled versus actual report. So you want to know whether or not you plan for a resource, an employee, to spend 2-3 days at a job and they spend 3 or 4 or 5. You can actually compare, and long term you can see how good you are at scheduling those resources, or maybe how efficient those resources are being once they're scheduled. You have comprehensive features on the mobile app. So the mobile app has a lot of features of things you can do in terms of time tracking. You can do both individual and crew clocking, which is huge. I have a landscaping company that has 7 crews, and each crew has between 2 and 5 employees. Some of these guys just don't have the discipline to all clock in and out, so they just get the responsibility for one person to do the clocking in and out on the jobs. They also have a new kiosk style tracking with a tablet, which competes with a lot of those traditional hand key clock in, clock out options. Has a comprehensive multi-user approval system where you can completely separate the person that does the entries versus the person that approves them before moving to payroll. And if you have any clients working with the government that have DCAA or DOL compliance requirements, it creates that. All right, so that's it. I'm gonna pass it over to Dan. Dan, I'm making you presenter. I am unmuting you, and I'm muting myself so you can move on. Now, I'll do, right after you introduce Tsheets, I'm gonna run one more polling question, okay? So go ahead.
Awesome, thank you so much, Hector. Can you hear me?
Crystal clear, Dan.
Great, and can you see my screen?
Yes, I do.
Great, thank you so much, Hector. I really, really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at. My name is Dan Buckingham. I am on the Pro Success team here at Tsheets, which basically means I am dedicated to our accountants, bookkeeping channel partners, Intuit QuickBooks Pro advisors, to help them be successful with the use of Tsheets for their own business as well as for their clients' business. So I'm so excited to be presenting Tsheets, tell you a little bit about why we're here, and then show you into the product. And with that, I will let Hector run that next polling question.
Sure. Before I do the polling question, Dan, I'm gonna put you on the spot. We're in an elevator. You got 30 seconds. What is Tsheets?
Absolutely, I love it, Hector. Tsheets is an automated time tracking and scheduling platform that helps small and medium businesses save time and lower their payroll expenses by using a third-party application that's automated and can be downloaded on a cell phone, fired up on a kiosk, and all of that data transmits into payroll systems and accounting platforms. QuickBooks Online, deeply embedded.
Awesome. And within the same theme of 15, 30-second elevator pitch, why should an accountant or QuickBooks Pro Advisor that does not process payroll care?
Your clients are coming to you as a trusted business advisor. They're looking to save time and grow their business, and Tsheets is an application that can absolutely help them do that.
Thank you, man. That's as much salesy as you can be today. From now on, all education. Thanks.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Sounds great.
Let me run one more polling question before you get started. So, do you currently offer time tracking solutions to your clients? And just be honest, right? There's no right or wrong answer. If you're already offering 100%, T-sheets, then that's good. The T-sheets team knows that you probably don't need any more information. You do need some love, some recognition, free shirt or something, Dan, right? But let us know whether or not, if you're interested at the end of getting some information, or where you stand, or what type of how technical of the information that you want. So do you currently offer time tracking solution to your clients, also assuming that you are, you have clients, right? Now, the other thing to let you know, T-Sheets is a premium sponsor of QB Power Hour. That means they're going to be appearing a couple of times during the year. And we're going to do more in-depth, advanced, new features, tips and tricks that are more on the technical side. From now, this one's going to be served as a launching point to kind of explain to you where T-Sheets is now, give you some of the resources on where to go to learn more about it. And then we're going to do more in-depth technical webinars later on with T-Sheets. Okay? All right, perfect. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Remember, you need to answer something, doesn't matter, for your CPE. Going once, going twice, poll closed. I'll show the results real quick, let you know kind of where you stand. 75% of you do not offer any time tracking solution to your clients. We would obviously love to sway you otherwise. I'm going to go ahead and hide the results and take over Dan. And Dan, there's been some requests to get into the product and highlight some of the important things in product. So please save some time for that.
Absolutely. I'll run through these slides here quickly so we can get into product. Very, very excited to be showing you in product. We'll show you the QBO integration that we just spoke about. Obviously, as Hector mentioned, integration with QuickBooks Desktop as well. So if you have questions, don't hesitate. So let's dive right in. And kind of he teed me up really well, and I appreciate that, Hector, of kind of the elevator pitch here about where does T-Sheets fit in with you? And the way we see the accounting industry and the bookkeeping industry out there today is that there's two types of accounting professionals: those that do payroll with their clients and those that run away. And both are doing feel the same way about payroll and time tracking, and that is that it's time consuming, there's compliance issues and risks, and that it's unprofitable. And I know I loved the polling question that Hector launched, and I don't know, Hector, if you want to jump in and just kind of talk about that in between real quickly.
Yeah, so a lot of folks, by the way, I offer payroll services, I offer training so you can run your own payroll, and I also offer to completely stay away from payroll from certain clients. So I'm in all sides of the spectrum, but I do remember at some point in my career being somewhere in the middle. Like, I don't want to be involved with payroll. I don't want the responsibility of payroll, but my clients I'm watching them go to the pain point of whatever weird system they do to timesheets, paper, fax, whatever. So there's a lot of people that are in between, that they're not necessarily doing any payroll processing, but maybe they're just observing payroll to be a pain point. And I want to make sure that that in between people does exist.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that. And Hector, it's so great to hear you say observing your clients and their pain points. And that's really where Tsheets comes into play, and partnering with us can really help you drive into the future. Your clients do have pain points in time tracking and payroll, although you may not want to be intimately involved. Providing them a third-party automated application like Tsheets will truly bring you as a trusted business advisor for them. So let's kind of breeze through here now. So introducing Tsheets saves you time helping your clients manage their payroll. If they do payroll, you can show them how to set up and manage time in 15 minutes or less. And I'll even show you how quickly it is to fire up a Tsheets account here in just a second. And if you do manage their payroll, as Hector said, as a part of your business, you could be doing it in 50% less time utilizing Tsheets. Just a little bit about Tsheets. If you don't know about us, love to see that there's some pro advisors or Tsheets pros out there already referring Tsheets. That's great. We are the highest rated and requested third-party application in the Intuit apps ecosystem. We are incredibly proud of that. We've been around for 11 years. We've been partnered with Intuit for just over 5 years. Again, QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online integrated. We have 10,000 plus accounting partnerships and bookkeepers, and in those partnerships, we've saved 7 million hours around payroll and billing and invoicing. Everything that Hector was talking about earlier, we are here to automate and streamline that process. And with that being said, let me jump into just a really quick product demo. Now, give me just 1 second here to get logged into my QuickBooks Online account.
Yeah, and make a full screen if you can as well, please.
Go ahead, Hector.
So make a full screen as well after you log in, please.
Absolutely. And as I get logged in, let me just kind of talk through our QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online integration and what that means as far as time tracking and time capture goes. I loved that Hector showed those weekly timesheets in both desktop and online. When you integrate with QuickBooks, either platform, you are going to get the ability to pull over the employees that are all listed within the file, the customers and sub-customers that are listed within the file, the service items that are listed. So if you're doing service item tracking, the employees need to track against that. The classes, if you're doing class tracking, and that billable yes/no option that Hector kept mentioning. So here's within my QuickBooks Online account, there is going to be 2 different ways that you can kind of integrate with Tsheets. You can either come from the QuickBooks profile just by going to the App Center, or in the top right-hand corner, you can click the plus, in the Tsheets account, you can go to the add-ons menu, and you can actually install your QuickBooks Online integration here, which thankfully it's already installed. Once you have these 2 programs installed, you're simply going to run an import with QuickBooks. It's a simple click of a button. And when you run that import, that's where you're going to get the option of what do I want to bring over into my Tsheets account? Do I need do the employees need to be tracking against jobs and customers? Am I doing this for payroll? Am I doing this for billing and invoicing? Do they need to track against services? The great thing about Tsheets is it's incredibly customizable to that client's needs. So, you can be a stripped down punch in, punch out style time clock, as Hector mentioned with our kiosk, which I'll show here in just 1 second, or you can build it all the way up to a full blown labor tracking job service item tracking on our mobile device. And I'll show that here in just 1 second. Now that we're in Tsheets, I'm logged in as an administrator. So I see all of my employees down the left-hand side, which came over from QuickBooks. They all get usernames and passwords. They all can download the mobile application onto their devices. They're going to see the client list. They're going to see the service item list, all of that good stuff. And I can also see all of the editing on the left-hand side. Hector mentioned this. We have a full-blown scheduling system within Tsheets. So you can schedule out jobs and shift based on hours or days, depending on what you're trying to do. It's all about job management, shift management, or project management. It's very easy to manage the shifts and jobs within here. You can drag and drop them onto the employees. And the beautiful thing about this is that employee notifications from a manager or an owner of a company are automated through our system. They register right onto the employees' devices when they publish the shifts out to those employees. You can describe a lot within the schedule. You can title a shift, assign it to multiple employees or groups, select the customer that they need to be going to, input a location, which is Google aware, and input some notes as well. You can also add that service item and whether you want that shift to be billable or not, so the employee knows right away what they're supposed to be doing. After the employee has been scheduled out, I actually have my cell phone fired up here. I'd love to show it. Now, Hector, let me know, is this big enough on the screen on my cell phone device so I can show you?
Perfect, go ahead.
Awesome. That's great. I'll keep rocking through here. I'm already logged into my mobile application for time tracking. I see I'm logged in as one of the employees, Mary Smith, within this account. I'm going to go ahead and select the customer, which came over from QuickBooks Online. Great. I'm going to select whether this is billable or not, yes or no, and the service that I'm completing. So I'll go ahead and say that maybe I'm doing just some services here. And I'm going to click clock in, and there's your punch in, punch out style. We are pulling GPS, as Hector mentioned, for those field service clients that you have for the visibility into the workforce. That's great. It's showing in real time to the administrators and the owners where this employee clocked in, where they are during the day. It's a breadcrumb trail of where they've been as well. Now, if you do have, you're inputting time data after the fact and you don't need the punch in, punch out style, you can just add a timesheet from the mobile device as well. I'm going to enter 8 hours. Maybe I completed some work last week, 8 hours for customer 1. And this was actually last Monday. We'll say the 15th. We'll say this is some billable hours, and the service that I completed here are just some consulting services. And I'll go ahead and
wanted to add something, Dan. That customer list and that item list comes straight from QuickBooks. Just wanted to mention that.
Absolutely, yes. We map everything over so that when the time data lands back over in desktop or in online, it lines up to all of the correct columns and the information that you already have within your file. So you can see here, and this is where I'm going to move over to QBO here in just a second to show you how we're integrated fully into that system. It's absolutely amazing. So Mary has put in some hours, customer 1, 8 hours on Monday, May 15th. Before I get into the QBO, let me just show you some other options. There's actually 9 different ways you can track time. So imagine all the different clients and industries that Tsheets could be a good fit for to really streamline and automate these processes. The kiosk, which we just launched here, I have fired up. This is on that same exact Tsheets account. So maybe I have some employees that are out in the field and maybe some that come into the shop. That's great. I'm going to log in as John Johnson. I'm going to type in my 4-digit PIN, 1234. I see a big, huge green clock in button. I click it and it says, have a great day, John. You clocked into your shift. Okay. Next employee walks up to the kiosk. This can be fired up on an iPad, a tablet, a laptop, a computer, wherever you need to do. John Smith is now on the clock and he's good to go and ready to roll. Now back into the actual web dashboard here, you can see in real time, Mary Smith, customer 1, me as a business owner, has full visibility into my workforce. I see she's clocked into GPS. That's great. Let me see where she's actually located. Oh, right here. And the accuracy is this red circle. These are the 2 Tsheets headquartered buildings here in Eagle, Idaho. I just tracked from my phone. If I back out, imagine seeing like a bird's eye view of where all the employees are located throughout the day. You get a call for a service that's located next to Mary Smith and she's the closest. Create a schedule, a shift for her, post it to her schedule. It automatically buzzes to her phone and she can clock into that job and head there right away. The review and management of time, as Hector mentioned, can be done all within Tsheets or within QuickBooks Online. We do have a multi kind of tiered approval process where a manager and administrator can come in. They can run a report based on the pay period. For the hours worked, they can filter to the pay period that matches their payroll schedule. They can run the report, and then they can view the details. So there are those 8 hours that Mary tracked last week. I can open that up. I can see what she tracked against, the customer, the billable, yes, no, and the consulting. I can see her overtime, her PTO, and her break time as well. So all of that tracking is done and easily reportable in Tsheets. Now let's go take a look at QuickBooks Online. So back in QuickBooks Online, in the plus icon, there's a new option besides single time activity and weekly timesheet now, and it's called Approve Time. And it's added when you integrate with a Tsheets account. So if I am going to be able to see all of the time data that got populated to Mary's time card just by coming into here. It's going to say, hey, you now have approved time here. Check it out. Go ahead and close it. I'll go back to last week where I put in that time. Oh, sorry about that.
And while you do that, I just wanted to mention something because I know you're double checking the time frame. That approved time button that he's about to show, that's not a QuickBooks Online feature. That's a integrated T-Sheets with QuickBooks Online feature. So you're not going to see that functioning until you get your T-Sheets integration. So I had to mention that.
Yep, that's exactly right. So the approved time is not going to come into play until you integrate. And from that approved time menu, you are going to see the time data, and you can do two things with it. And now that I've filtered to this specific date, there's some overlapping time here. So customer one is going to get filled out, the notes that came over from there, whether it was billable, checked, yes or no, and those total amount of hours that were worked are all going to reside now within the weekly timesheet and can be managed the exact same way that Hector was showing here just a second ago. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that new approved time feature. And we will go ahead and take a look back at that week again. Now, it looks like Mary Smith, here we go. Here she is. So Mary Smith, she's got 8 regular hours, 0 overtime hours, 0 PTO. And you can see I clicked nothing to get this time data to reside over in QuickBooks Online. It's a seamless integration. It's embedded in the backend, and the two programs are calling each other every couple of minutes to update. So if I open this up, I see her full time card, the date, the hours worked, the customer, the service item, and the billable yes now. From here, I can run accept and create an invoice or accept and run payroll. Either one of these will drop you into those two different modules within QuickBooks Online, and that time data will automatically populate into an invoice or be ready to run payroll from inside.
And again, this is within QuickBooks Online. You don't have to be in T-Sheets for this, but you have to have captured the data in T-Sheets for you to use this approval system.
That's exactly right. And just to note as well, the QuickBooks Desktop integration, utilizing the web connector, will populate the data in a similar fashion in that weekly time card Hector was showing. And we do have other integrations with third-party payroll platforms that Hector has brought up on this call that time data can actually flow seamlessly from T-Sheets into those payroll applications.
Yes, I wanted to qualify something that's really, really important. Let's say you don't use QuickBooks at all. No QuickBooks Desktop, no QuickBooks Online. You can still use T-Sheets, and just to manage where your staff are, that in itself has a humongous management value. Also, if you use a third-party payroll system like Paychex, ADP, is there any other big one then other than Paychex and ADP that's compatible with T-Sheets?
Paychex, ADP, ACS, Intuit Online Payroll.
Gusto too, right?
Gusto as well, correct.
Right. So you use a third-party processor that doesn't have to be QuickBooks. You can still use T-Sheets to capture that data. If you need to bring it in QuickBooks as well, for, as I mentioned earlier, for two purposes: one, to run payroll inside QuickBooks, or to do billable time for your clients, then that's the added value of the integration and also bringing in the customer job names, classes, all that stuff. So just don't think of T-Sheets as something that you only use if you have QuickBooks. You can use it on its own as well. I'm sure Dan will tell you that a lot of your T-Sheets clients don't use QuickBooks at all. They don't need to, right? So I mean, you have to understand that it itself, it's its own solution. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There, even some QuickBooks utilizers that aren't using the billing and invoicing portion or the payroll portion within QuickBooks, they're truly just using it as an accounting platform, are utilizing T-Sheets disconnected from it to manage their employee attendance and time tracking. And it's saving them heaps of time and giving them full visibility into their labor. And letting them do reporting on the different jobs that their client or employees work on and all of those things. So love to talk about becoming a T-Sheets Pro for those of you out there that are not T-Sheets pros right now. Signing up is absolutely free for life. And I believe, Hector, you're a T-Sheets Pro, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and what's your experience been with working with us so far, and for your clients, and.
Well, first of all, I get a check every month for some of the clients that I sign up, right? Because you guys do the commission and the profit sharing, so that's obviously a good thing.
That's right.
But what I really like, I mean, to be honest with you, what I really like is Tsheets is one of the few apps where I can tell the client, listen, this is the name, T-sheets. You deal with them. Let me know when you're done. I mean, very few apps require, like, I can literally just give them the name and completely walk out of it, and I don't have to deal with the hand holding. I mean, in some cases, I have clients that want to hire me as a consultant to work them through the process. But T-sheets has positioned themselves by having amazing staff and really well trained staff. And I think that's, in my opinion, the best valuable thing. Now, when I first got started, what was most valuable for me was getting certified as a T-Sheets Pro and obviously
Mhm.
learning the technical aspects of it. Now that I have a more mature practice, I enjoy, just referring clients over and getting commission checks. So that's my answer.
That's great. Thanks, Hector. Appreciate it. And yeah, absolutely. So anyone who's interested does get a free T-Sheets account for your practice. And exactly like Hector said, we know you'll recommend what you love yourself. So try us out, call our support team, experience what it's like to be involved with T-Sheets. We do have full training and certifications on our when you become a T-Sheets Pro. And we do offer best price. So we do have where Hector's talking about the client pays, and you can actually receive a commission based on that, some mailbox money as you refer clients over to T-Sheets. Or if you're bundling services together and time tracking and payroll is a large part of your business, then we do have a wholesale billing model with a 25% discount in perpetuity of the life of the account. So, and all of this comes with an amazing, as Hector mentioned, a dedicated team to help you succeed. And that's our CEO's commitment to you. We're committed to making you look good to your clients. We've got thousands of five-star reviews on intuitapps.com. Just give us a call and we'll help you out.
And you want to put that
And with
screen there where you have your contact information, your email, all that stuff.
Yep, here we go. You can get signed up at tsheets.com/pros, or schedule a call through the link that you see online, or give us a call. And then Hector's going to run one last polling question to see all of you out there that are interested. We will follow up with you, if you choose to opt into our program.
Okay, so again, the program is free, at least the Pro Advisor, the T-Sheets Pro program. And if you opt in, they're gonna send you a free T-shirt. So obviously, what T-Sheets wants is they want to make sure that they have they know who wants to either recommend it. I mean, you don't have to be selling it. You can just simply just recommend it. And obviously, in exchange, you get a free T-shirt, and you will have access to the training, right, Dan? Because people on these webinars, they're looking for training. They're looking for ways to get to learn more the technical aspects of it. By the way, if you already are a pro, they'll still send you a shirt anyway. But
Absolutely,
right, Dan?
absolutely.
Sorry, I'm
That's
committing
absolutely
you.
right.
I'm committing you to that. I apologize.
I'm looking over. Okay, looks like we got plenty of boxes of shirts over here, so we're good.
Okay, yeah, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna leave the polling question. By the way, it's also for the CPE, so it kind of combines. So the people that selected a shirt size, you will get email confirmation with your address, and you will have the links to all the free training programs that are there. Dan, let me see. Somebody else is asking the integration between T-Sheets and QBO that was announced by Intuit. Is it just that, just the approval, or is there more?
It's the approval process and us being embedded in flowing time data from T-Sheets directly into the weekly timesheet in the approved time area.
That for now, right?
Correct.
Are there any others coming in the pipeline that you can discuss, or not really?
None at this moment. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Let's see. Someone else is saying, what are breadcrumbs? You want to explain breadcrumbs, Dan? Because I know that's a sort of a colloquial term.
Yeah, that's too funny. So we pull GPS from a employee's mobile device in a really strategic manner as to not drain their cell phone data and battery, because we know a lot of employers don't pay for their mobile devices for their employees. So we want to make sure to limit that amount. So a breadcrumb is we pull GPS when an employee clocks in, when they clock out, and every 10 minutes as long as they have moved over 150 feet. So imagine it as a breadcrumb trail of where that employee has been throughout the day.
Okay. And it would basically look like a map with a bunch of lines letting you know where people went.
That's absolutely right.
Okay. And somebody else is saying, hey, my shirt size is not here, or you didn't specify if it's male or female. So all I can say is just specify it on the welcome email, right?
Go ahead and put your best estimate, and it's a unisex T-shirt. And if you get the wrong size, reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to correct it for you.
Okay. All right. No problem. All right, Dan. Thank you. I don't have any more questions. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to me so I can wrap things up. It's already past 1 o'clock Eastern here. So some people I know they have to get off, but I do want to talk about one more thing
Yeah,
before we wrap things up. Okay. Dan, thank you
go
very
for it.
much. Great job, by the way.
Thank you, everyone. It's so great to be here.
Bye. Okay, great, awesome. So again, don't miss the next episode on June 15th, 2017, which will be an ACE episode, Advanced Certified Credit for the Advanced Pro Advisors. And the next one afterward will be on the 29th, but we don't have a topic yet. Again, I want to thank our sponsors, Tsheets, for doing the demonstration. We committed Tsheets to one more episode that's going to be more about doing a full sort of hands-on, step-by-step process for setting up. Right now, there was a lot more intro and context building. But in the next episode, we'll set up a T-Sheets account, a QA account, and do everything from zero to payroll. So you go through that entire process. So there is no webinar coming up on June 8th. The next one's going to be on June 15th. The other sponsors also Aero Workflow. Check them out for workflow management, and HubDoc, great for document aggregation and document management. I'm going to run one more polling question, and this is just for me to kind of know how we did on this episode. Did you learn something new? Because obviously, don't learn something new, then not worth it doing these, right? Or showing up to them. Okay, so did you learn something new? Um, and somebody else says, do you have any training on setting up commissions tracking? I'm not sure if they're talking about commissions to employees or T-Sheets commission. Kimberly, I will answer your question if you can clarify that. Someone says, I didn't get a chance to answer the polling question, but here's another one. So I launched a total of 5 on this one. So as long as you get 3 out of 5, you will get your CPE certificate. Someone else, are the slides available? So I didn't have them available now, but I'm going to send an email in the next couple of days during the weekend with the recording, with the slides, and the same links and phone numbers and contact info that Dan gave to us. So whether you attend the live or watching the video later, and you're part of the QB Power Hour group, you will get an email with that. So, okay, so I'm clarifying commissions to employees. So Kimberly, check the YouTube channel. I do have some episodes on commission, but we don't have anything scheduled in particular about tracking commission, but there is a video on that. Dan, thank you very much. They say perfect presentation. Somebody says that they dealt with you over the phone before in support, and they love you, that you were great. So kudos on that as well. Okay, let me go ahead and close that polling question, and we are done. Let's continue the conversation in our Facebook group. Just search for QB Power Hour, perfect place to ask questions about stuff that we talked about, stuff that maybe about other things that we haven't talked about, Tishi's related, not Tishi's related, QuickBooks related, whatever. Join the Facebook group, continue the conversation, and also join the LinkedIn group. Again, thank you very much for Dan. Thank you very much for everybody joining us today. And you have a wonderful day, and I will see you or speak to you in 3 weeks.